Hi there, I'm Kathleen Jasper. Today we're talking about how to write a teacher resume. Many of you are starting to apply for teaching positions. You were either a substitute this year or you're entering the field of teaching and you're not sure how to structure that resume. You may be someone who has no teaching experience and you don't know how to make your resume look good for a teaching job. So I'm going to help you with that today. Let's get started. So this is going to be part one of how to write a teacher resume. And today we're going to focus on the 3 elements you need in order to kind of push your resume to the top of the heap or the top half of the heap so that the principal pulls your resume and brings you in for an interview. So we're just going to talk about the elements today. And I want you to think about these elements as you start to kind of think about your resume and how you're going to build it. All right, so let's hop on over to my computer here so I can talk to you about the 3 elements. So today, again, it's just part one. We're going to be talking about 3 important elements your teacher resume should have to put it at the top of the heap so that the principal selects your resume to go through. And when we talk about 3 elements of a well-written resume, I'd like you to focus on these 3 things. Now, the first component of a well-written teacher resume, one of the 3 elements, is going to be a focus on managing different types of people. Now, I'm using the word managing here. I don't want you to really use that word in your interview. Managing is kind of a bad word. We really want to lead, inspire, collaborate. That's really what we want to do. But I use it here because you are going to need to know how to manage different types of people. You're not just managing different types of students in your classroom. You're managing parents, teacher conferences, other colleagues, things like that. So I'm using the term manage here. We're going to church it up a little bit to make it sound better in your resume, but just for the sake of us communicating right now, you're managing. You've got to manage all kinds of different things: behavior, attendance, standards, curriculum. This kid needs help with one thing. This kid needs help with another. This parent is calling and emailing you. This other parent needs assistance with, the online program. So you're having to manage all these different things. So you want to build your resume with that focus in mind, all right? The other thing you want to focus on is using data to make decisions. Now, I know that you may have been working in retail, or you may have been an accountant, or you may have been a substitute teacher, or whatever your profession was before you decided to come into teaching. Or you may be a college student who is just now, coming into teaching. But that doesn't matter. There's always a way to find some way in which you use data to make decisions. And I'm going to show you how to do that in your resume. You can do that in retail. You can do that as a sub for sure. And you can do that as an accountant, or even a person working in a restaurant, or a server working in a hotel or something like that. There's always a way to find data to make decisions. And I'm going to show you how to do that. And then, of course, we want to focus on fulfilling the organization's mission, vision, and standards. Standards here are very important because remember, the principal wants to know that you are going to administer instruction, plan lessons, lead your students through the curriculum with standards in mind, with the vision in mind, with the mission in mind. Remember, the school's vision and mission is aligned to the standards. The school's goals are going to be aligned to the standards. So, getting in that kind of language, vision, mission, and standards is always going to be good to have in your resume. All right. So to recap really quickly, the 3 elements of a well-written teacher resume is going to be a focus on managing different types of people. We're also going to use some data to make instructional decisions or just make decisions in general. And then fulfilling the organization's goals, standards, mission, vision, that kind of language should be in your resume. Now, you may be asking yourself, what does that look like when it comes to the actual resume? It's good to talk about, meeting the needs of diverse people and, managing all kinds of different people and using data and focusing on standards. But I worked in a restaurant, or I was a retail person. How do I implement that language? All right, well, I'm going to show you here, okay? So let's just talk about the first element, a focus on managing different types of people. So we want to showcase the fact that you've been able to serve different types of people, parents, students, people with different preferences, things like that. And that's going to be relatable in the resume, especially for a teaching position. So let's just talk about retail really quickly. Well, how do you meet the diverse needs of your customers? Well, don't you have, parents that come in with their with their children. You may have people who have, let's say it's a shoe store. You might have specific orthopedic needs. Certain people need certain sneakers for different things. So you're choosing products for different clients and customers, and you're showing different customers different products so that they can, choose what's right for them. That is meeting the needs of a diverse customer base. Now, in the restaurant business, you've got different types of guests. You also work with other colleagues. You also have to deal with other managers. We don't want to say the word deal with on our resume, but it's true. You have to deal with one manager on one shift and another manager on another, right? So that's a diverse working community. So in the restaurant business, you might want to showcase, collaborating with lots of different types of people to meet goals, right? The goal is to provide the best service there is in the restaurant or in the hotel. So you are meeting the needs of each guest, dietary needs, sleeping arrangements, family needs, things like that when it comes to the restaurant business or the hotel business. So that's really important. And then let's just say you're an accountant or an HR person. Well, HR, you're solving problems. You're working with a lot of different people, and you know where to find the answers. So in all three of these areas, retail, restaurant, business, accounting, you can always talk about how you managed or focused on the needs of different people. All right. Now I'm going to show you in another video how to actually put that down in your resume, but start to think in your mind, okay, I worked at the Nike outlet. How did I meet the needs of each person? Well, parents would come in and they would want one thing, or student athletes would come in and they would need a specific thing, or a new sneaker would come out and I would have to convince somebody that it was better than another sneaker. I mean, there's all kinds of ways in which you are engaging with a diverse customer base, okay? Same with the restaurant business, right? You've got people who want special orders. You have a bartender maybe who needs you to take, be a team player and take the drinks over to this customer who left the bar. It's all about collaboration in the restaurant business to meet a common goal. And then of course, accounting or HR, or a more professional type of field, you're solving problems, you're helping your clients in different ways with their finances or maybe with their employment. And so you're going to want to really show that in your resume. All right. Now let's talk about the second element, using data to make decisions. Well, if you're a retail person, don't you use sales data and trend data to kind of drive how you're going to be selling your products? If you don't, maybe you hated your job at the Nike outlet. Let's be more positive and talk about how you did use sales data. If you got into a management position in retail, well, of course you're using sales data. You're using customer feedback surveys. You're also using observational data in order to make decisions. So that's all here. You do that in retail. Think about that. Like, you're walking around the store and you're noticing somebody struggling to figure out what kind of shoe they're going to buy or what kind of outfit they're going to buy. What do? You go over there and you intervene and you say, hey, I know a lot about this product. Let me show you what it does or whatever. That's all teaching. That's all meeting the needs of a diverse population. So think about that. In the restaurant business, obviously you're looking at costs. You're looking at customer satisfaction surveys. You're also looking, you're observing when your person is done. Are these people, do they look antsy? I mean, the restaurant biz is all about observations. Have these people been waiting too long? And you're making decisions based on that. So that's all data. It's all data. So if you're an older professional who has been an accountant for a long time or in the HR department for a long time, and you're making the switch to teaching, you can talk about how you used employment data or financial data to help people make decisions for their lives, to make decisions for the organization, that type of thing. If you're a college student just coming out of the restaurant business like I was when I started, actually, I was in the restaurant business for a long time after college and then decided to be a teacher. You can use some of that experience to make your resume look good. That experience is really important. Being in the restaurant business is a tough job. I mean, you're like managing all kinds of different things. It's a lot like teaching. You've got a lot of people out there around the pool. I used to work at the Ritz-Carlton and I'd be running around that pool and everybody needs a different thing. I mean, it's a lot like teaching. So make sure that you think about that as you're starting to think about your resume. And then finally, the third element of what makes an effective teacher resume is fulfilling the organization's vision, mission, and standards. Well, what does that look like in retail or the restaurant business or accounting and HR? Okay. Now, these are just 3 types of jobs that I'm talking about here. Obviously, there are a million other jobs you might have been employed in, but this is one way in which you can apply this. All right. Now, when we talk about fulfilling the organization's vision, mission, and standards, this standards piece is very, very important. Like I said before, the principal wants to know that you're going to, use the standards to drive your instruction, to make your decisions. So it helps for you to show that you've already done that in another profession or while you were employed in another place. So let's talk about retail. So obviously you're meeting sales goals. There's probably some sales standards you need to meet. Think about the standards in that profession, right? There's some service standards, I'm sure, meeting service standards. And then of course, you're always being an ambassador to the brand. Now, they used to use this a lot in the Ritz-Carlton. We were considered ambassadors to the Ritz-Carlton. So even when we were out in public, we were, supposed to really conduct ourselves as ambassadors to the brand. Of course, the Ritz-Carlton is a very fancy place, right? And I've worked at dive bars where I still needed to be an ambassador for the brand because it's all about, what people think, right? So you're always going to want to be hyping up your organization, being positive about your organization, no matter what it is, whether it's a dive bar down the road or the Ritz-Carlton on the beach, you're always trying to meet the standards and service for those particular organizations. So that's one way in which you meet the vision, mission, and standards, especially in the restaurant business when you're talking about like cleanliness standards. There may have been some of that. In retail, sales goals, sales standards. Maybe there's a certain way you're supposed to sell something, maybe packaging standards. I mean, there's all kinds of ways in which companies want their employees to meet a standard. So make sure you think about that as you are, drafting in your mind that teacher resume. Then, of course, in the restaurant business, you're creating experiences based on the standards for that particular organization or that particular restaurant. So I know at the Ritz-Carlton, the experience was everything. That's what people are paying thousands and thousands of dollars a night to have, right? Or maybe it's the Hyatt, they have their own standards, or the Hilton, they have their own standards. Whatever restaurant it is, maybe it's Carrabba's, there are standards there, Outback, those types of restaurants. They all have some sort of credo by which they operate. So think about that as you're doing your resume in your mind. And of course, if you're a more seasoned professional and you're coming out of the accounting or HR departments or something like that, you for sure have some standards that you go by. There are HR standards that every organization has to adhere to, accounting standards for sure. So make sure you kind of think about those because that's what drives you in your job, and that's what's hopefully going to drive you as a teacher. The vision, the mission, the goals, and the standards of not just the school, but the district and, of course, the state. Because that's what the principal wants to know, that you are going to fulfill those obligations. So that concludes part 1 of how to write an effective teacher resume. Now remember to keep these 3 elements in mind while you're thinking about your resume. Now in part 2, I'm going to show you how to use these 3 elements along with the job description in your resume so that, it shines, so you stand out and the principal wants to interview you. So make sure you watch part 2 of how to write a teacher resume. Thank you so much for watching today. Don't forget to look up here at the information and additional videos. We do have videos about the teacher interview, which will go very well with these teacher resume videos. So make sure you check those out. Don't forget to subscribe and let your colleagues know that we're here, and hit the notifications button so you get notified when we upload new content. Have an awesome day.